Hi, I'm Jonas.
And I'm Alexis.
This video is all about good and bad arguments.
Core to making a good presentation is having a key argument. Now, I don't mean that you're going to be arguing with the audience. I mean taking evidence and putting it together in a way that makes a compelling case for what you're trying to say in your presentation. So for example, you could structure your argument like this. Begin by stating your core thesis. This is the main argument that you want the audience to remember. Then we could go into a hook. That's something that will get the audience interested, especially if they're unfamiliar with the topic that you're talking about. Then we want to make sure that we're not overloading the audience with too much information. So we want to try to go for 3 points, each of which is supported by evidence. Finally, you'll finish by concluding and maybe offering some remarks on where this field or topic is going in the future, and make sure to restate your thesis one more time, just so it's the last thing that the audience hears.
You definitely want your presentation to have some kind of sense of logical progression to it. We'll use an example. Let's say I wanted to argue that the moon is made of cheese. You'd start by saying, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to tell you that the moon is made of cheese, and here's how I can prove it. They know exactly what you're going to talk about, and it kind of serves as a hook. But then you can engage with them. Try asking, why is this an important question? And then answer that with your own notes and research. Then dive in further. Explain your points. Maybe say that research shows that X plus Y equals moon is made of cheese, until finally you can reach some kind of conclusive statement. Remember to stay on topic. Make everything that you say relevant to that first question you asked your audience. If you can do that, everything's going to flow nicely and it's going to sound great.
Creating good arguments for your presentation is also about avoiding bad ones. So we're going to walk you through some common fallacies that people use that make their presentations just that bit weaker. The first that we'd like to talk about is the straw man argument. A straw man argument is when you take a distorted version of an argument rather than what it actually is and then argue against that. Let me maybe give you an example. So if I said to Jonas, I'd rather have a cat than a dog.
Well, then you dislike all cats, don't you?
But that's not what I said. I never said that I hate all cats. That's the example of a straw man argument, because Jonas isn't really arguing against what I said. He's arguing against a distorted version of an argument. A good way to counter this when you come up against it in an argument or in a debate is to really underline your main point. Call out the straw man argument, and then get back to what you were saying.
Another thing you might come across is something known as an ad hominem attack. We sometimes call this a character assassination. It's where, rather than addressing the actual argument or point being made, you attack the person who's making it. For example, if Alexis were arguing that the moon is made of cheese, I might say to Alexis, well, of course you'd say that. You love cheese. But it's not relevant. If this ever happens to you, it's really easy to deal with. Simply point out that it's happening. You know what it is. You know it's not relevant to your argument or your presentation. Once you've pointed that out, simply move on.
Another type of argument is the slippery slope argument. This is where we exaggerate links between separate events. We can sometimes catch ourselves doing this while we're presenting. For example, I could think, if I cough during this presentation, the whole presentation will be ruined. If the whole presentation is ruined, then everyone will think I'm silly. If everyone thinks I'm silly, I'll never get invited to another party again. If I never get invited to another party again, I'll never have friends anymore. Just remember when you're in this cycle of spiraling and try to go back up the spiral. Pause, take a break, observe your surroundings, and get back in the moment.
One thing you really want to avoid when performing any kind of presentation is making generalizations. These could be sweeping comments that you've basically made up with just a small amount of evidence. Quick example might just be if you'd seen 10 cats that had black fur and white spots. Well, now you might be tempted to say, that every cat with black fur also happens to have white spots. Now, in the real world, we know this isn't true. It's easily avoided. Simply make sure you've done your research and that you have the right evidence to back up your statements.
Our last bad argument is what we call a false dilemma. We can also call this an either-or fallacy. This is when you try to make it seem like there are only two options, when in fact there are many more. So I could, for example, say, you either love the Beatles or hate music, and that just doesn't present a wide enough range of options. Just remember, the world isn't black and white, so make sure you cover the argument from all angles.
With everything we've just covered, you should be able to identify what a good and a bad argument look like. You can use these tools to ensure that you make a compelling argument.